The Galactic Science Convention of 2457 buzzed with an energy that made Chief Research Officer Caxathor's sensory appendages tingle with anticipation. His crystalline exoskeleton reflected the pristine white lights of the grand exhibition hall, casting tiny rainbows across the faces of passing delegates. The prestigious Centauri Research Institute, his life's work, had finally achieved what countless generations of scientists had deemed impossible. "Ladies, gentlemen, and beings of all classifications," Caxathor's voice resonator projected across the vast hall. "Welcome to what will undoubtedly be remembered as the defining moment of waste management technology." The gathered crowd of the galaxy's finest minds murmured in appreciation. Some floated in their anti-gravity pods, others stood on their various appendages, and a few existed as pure energy forms contained within specialized matrices. But all attention focused on the gleaming chamber that dominated the center stage. Behold, the organic matter elimination chamber. Caxathor gestured with his upper appendages, his pride evident in the rapid color shifts of his crystalline form. No more will we struggle with biological waste disposal. No more will we fear contamination from organic matter. This chamber, he paused for dramatic effect, eliminates all organic material with 100% efficiency. Research Director Zenkar, a towering figure with bioluminescent patches that pulsed in sync with their speech, stepped forward. "Our colleague understates the achievement. This chamber combines quantum dissolution, molecular deconstruction, and zero-point energy manipulation. Nothing organic survives. Nothing." The crowd's excitement grew palpable. A methane-breathing Jupiterian raised their gas tentacle. "But surely there must be limitations." "None!" Caxathor's exoskeleton sparkled with joy. "We've tested it on everything from simple proteins to complex multicellular organisms. The results remain consistent. Complete elimination down to the last carbon atom." Security Chief Mixitol, their protective scales gleaming under the lights, monitored the crowd's reactions through compound eyes. The security protocols for this demonstration had been unprecedented. After all, this technology would revolutionize waste management across the galaxy. "The implications for space travel alone," Zenkar continued, their bioluminescence brightening with enthusiasm. "No more biological contamination between worlds. No more quarantine protocols. No more costly decontamination procedures." Caxathor moved toward the chamber's control panel, his crystalline fingers dancing across the holographic interface. "We'll begin with a simple demonstration. This common earth fruit, an apple, I believe they call it, will demonstrate the chamber's capabilities." The assembled scientists leaned forward, their various sensory organs fixed on the sealed chamber. None of them noticed the human delegate in the back row, whose raised eyebrow and slight smirk would soon turn their world upside down. "Watch closely," Caxathor announced, his voice resonator vibrating with pride. "For you are about to witness the future of organic waste management." Little did he know that this demonstration would lead to one of the most shocking revelations in galactic scientific history. The apple dematerialized in a flash of purple energy, drawing appreciative clicks, whistles, and electromagnetic pulses from the assembled scientists. Caxathor basked in their approval until a sharp voice cut through the celebratory atmosphere. "Neat party trick, but can it handle something more substantial?" The crowd parted like quantum particles in a magnetic field. A human woman strode forward, her boots clicking against the polished floor with deliberate confidence. Her dark skin contrasted sharply with the stark white of her lab coat, and her long braids were tied back in a practical fashion. "Victoria Nash, Earth's Advanced Research Division," she announced, flashing a smile that made several photosensitive beings adjust their protective shields. "Though I must say, my invitation seems to have gotten lost in the interstellar mail." Zenekar's bioluminescent patches flickered in annoyance. "This is a closed demonstration, human. Security protocols—" "Were surprisingly easy to bypass," Victoria interrupted, pulling out a security badge. "You really should update your quantum encryption. I cracked it during my coffee break. Security Chief Mixitol's scales rattled in embarrassment. Their compound eyes narrowed, focusing on the badge. That's impossible. Our systems are primitive, Victoria suggested helpfully. By Earth standards, anyway. Caxathor's crystalline form clouded with irritation. Miss Nash, while we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm for scientific advancement, this technology is far beyond your species' comprehension level. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at the Basic Sciences Symposium down the hall. The assembled scientists chittered and buzzed with amusement, a floating gas cloud being actually condensed slightly in what passed for laughter in their culture. Victoria's smile never wavered. You know what I find fascinating? How quick you all are to dismiss the species that survived on what you call, she made air quotes with her fingers, a death world. Earth's harsh conditions are precisely why we question your species' scientific judgment, Zenkar stated, their bioluminescence pulsing condescendingly. Living in such primitive conditions hardly qualifies. Put me in the chamber, Victoria interrupted again. The hall fell silent. Even the energy beings stopped their usual quantum fluctuations. Absolutely not! Caxthor's exoskeleton turned a deep shade of purple with shock. This is not some primitive Earth entertainment device. The chamber eliminates all organic matter. All of it. Victoria crossed her arms. You said it yourself. You've tested it on complex multicellular organisms. I'm just a complex multicellular organism. Unless... Her smile turned challenging. You're not as confident in your technology as you claim. This is preposterous. Zenekar's bioluminescence flickered rapidly. We cannot allow... Can't allow what? Victoria cut in. A primitive Deathworlder to prove your assumptions wrong. I'll sign whatever waivers you need. Full responsibility. Mixtol stepped forward, their scales now a concerned shade of orange. Miss Nash, this isn't bravado. The chamber will literally break down your molecular structure. Every organic molecule will be systematically destroyed. Then you have nothing to worry about, Victoria shrugged. I'll either prove your technology works or... She let the sentence hang. Caxathor's crystalline form shimmered with uncertainty. The crowd of scientists had grown larger, drawn by the commotion. He could feel the weight of their attention, their curiosity. A public challenge from a representative of a death world species. This could either cement his legacy, or... Very well, he announced, his voice resonator trembling slightly. But first, you must sign an extensive waiver absolving the Centauri Research Institute of any responsibility for your... He paused, searching for a diplomatic term. Dissolution. Victoria's grin widened. Already done. Had my quantum tablet draw them up while we were chatting. She held up a glowing document, complete with her signature. Shall we proceed? The assembled scientists buzzed with a mixture of horror and fascination. Some began placing bets using various forms of energy credits. Others prepared their data recording devices. None of them wanted to miss what they assumed would be the first documented case of human hubris leading to molecular dissolution. Remember, Victoria called out as she walked toward the chamber, sometimes the best scientific breakthroughs come from proving ourselves wrong. Caxathor's exoskeleton clouded with worry. Why did he have the unsettling feeling that they were about to learn something unprecedented about Deathworlders? The preparation sequence for the organic matter elimination chamber sent waves of nervous energy through the gathered crowd. Caxathor's assistants rushed around, their appendages flying over control panels, as they initiated the standard protocols that, until now, had only been used on non-sentient test subjects. Miss Nash, Dr. Lyra Patel, another human scientist who had been observing from the sidelines, pushed through the crowd. This is beyond reckless. The chamber has successfully broken down everything from simple proteins to complex vertebrates. We're talking about a 100% success rate across 7,892 trials. Victoria stretched her arms casually, as if preparing for nothing more strenuous than a morning workout. Sounds like you've got quite the impressive sample size there. But tell me, Dr. Patel, how many of those tests involved Deathworld organisms? Professor Jinwei Chen, the human scientific advisor to the Galactic Council, stepped forward. His weathered face creased with concern. None, because we're not suicidal. The chamber generates a quantum field that unravels molecular bonds. It creates a cascading effect that breaks down organic matter at its fundamental level while preserving inorganic materials. Victoria finished. Yes, I read the specs while hacking your database. Fascinating, really. The quantum harmonics are particularly elegant. Zenkar's bioluminescent patches flashed in alarm. You understood our quantum harmonics research. That's classified level 9 data. Child's play compared to calculating gravity surfing trajectories through a black hole's event horizon, Victoria winked. Now, shall we get on with it? These safety protocols are taking longer than my graduate thesis defense. Caxathor's crystalline form vibrated with nervous energy as he read out the technical specifications. Chamber atmosphere, complete vacuum. Temperature, absolute 0. Quantum field strength, 10 circumflex 12 TeV. Molecular disruption matrix, maximum density. Emergency shutdown protocols, disabled as per regulations. The chamber will generate 3 consecutive fields, Security Chief Mixtol explained, their scales now a sickly yellow with worry. First, a quantum dissolution field breaks down molecular bonds. Then a zero-point energy wave destroys cellular structures. Finally, a subatomic scatter field disperses any remaining organic particles. Professor Chen grabbed Victoria's arm. The tests showed complete atomic dissolution in less than 0.3 seconds. Not even bacterial spores survived. Then this should be quick, Victoria replied cheerfully, shrugging off his grip. She began removing her lab coat and jewellery, leaving only her simple black uniform. Keep these safe for me, will you? They're not organic, so they should survive just fine. A Jovian physicist floated forward, their gas forms swirling with agitation. We've tested objects with far simpler molecular structures than a human body. The pain, theoretically, would be beyond comprehension, Victoria suggested. Good thing we Deathworlders have a pretty high pain threshold. Had worse during basic training. Caxathor's assistants finished their preparations, each triple-checking their readings with trembling appendages. The chamber door stood open, its polished interior reflecting the anxious faces of the gathered scientists. Final safety check complete, one assistant announced, their crystalline form clouded with stress. All systems at maximum capacity. Monitoring equipment calibrated. Emergency medical team standing by, though. They likely won't be necessary. No. Victoria rolled her shoulders and walked toward the chamber. She paused at the entrance, turning to face the crowd. Just out of curiosity, what's the longest anything organic has lasted in there? 0.47 seconds, Caxthor replied, his voice resonator barely above a whisper. A particularly resilient fungal mass from the methane seas of Titan. Victoria nodded thoughtfully. Care to place a bet on whether I can beat that record? Before anyone could respond, she stepped into the chamber and gave a thumbs up. All right, folks, let's make history. Or get atomically dispersed trying. The chamber door sealed with a hiss, its quantum locks engaging with an ominous thrum. The gathered scientists held their various breathing apparatus in anticipation. Some turned away, unable to watch what they believed would be the instantaneous dissolution of a human being. Caxathor's appendage hovered over the activation switch. Miss Nash, this is your final chance to... Just push the button already. Victoria's voice came through the chamber's comm system, sounding almost bored. I've got dinner plans later. With a resigned flicker of his crystalline form, Caxathor initiated the sequence. The chamber hummed to life, its quantum fields beginning to glow with deadly purpose. No one in the room was prepared for what happened next. The organic matter elimination chamber activated with a low, resonant hum that made every being in the room vibrate at a molecular level. Purple quantum fields flickered to life, casting an eerie glow through the transparent sections of the chamber walls. Victoria Nash stood in the center, her posture relaxed as if waiting for a subway train. Phase 1 initiating, Caxthor announced, his voice resonator wavering. Quantum dissolution field engaging in 3, 2, 1. The first wave of energy struck Victoria like a tsunami of purple lightning. The assembled scientists watched their monitors with a mixture of horror and fascination. According to every reading, her molecular bonds should have been unraveling instantly. 0.47 seconds, called out an assistant. Subject has matched the Titan fungus record. 0.55 seconds, another voice rang out. Subject's molecular structure showing signs of... Wait, that can't be right. Victoria's form remained solid within the purple maelstrom. More incredibly, she appeared to be yawning. Phase 2. Caxathor's crystalline form flickered with panic. Engage 0-point energy wave. Maximum power. The chamber's hum deepened to a bone-rattling frequency. Blue-white energy crackled around Victoria's body, designed to tear apart any cellular structures that somehow survived the first phase. The readings on the monitors spiked off their scales. 1.2 seconds, Professor Chen announced, his voice filled with disbelief. She's still molecularly intact. How is this possible? Zenkar's bioluminescent patches strobed frantically. Her cellular structure should be completely destroyed. Victoria's voice crackled through the comm system, distorted but unmistakably amused. Is this thing supposed to tingle? Because it kind of tickles. Phase 3, Caxathor screamed, his crystalline form now a chaos of conflicting colours. Initiate subatomic scatter field, full power, emergency overrides activated. The chamber erupted with blinding green energy. The subatomic scatter field, capable of dispersing organic particles across quantum space, filled the chamber with its destructive force. The monitoring equipment began shorting out, unable to process the readings they were receiving. 2.7 seconds, Security Chief Mixtol announced, their scales rapidly shifting through colours never before seen in their species. Subject is dancing. Indeed, through the swirling maelstrom of quantum energy, Victoria appeared to be doing a small jig. Her voice crackled through the comm system again. You know, this reminds me of that time I got caught in a solar flare during spacewalk training, though that was a bit spicier. Impossible! Caxathor's assistants were frantically working their control panels. All 3 fields are at maximum power. The energy output could dissolve a small moon. 4.3 seconds, Dr. Patel called out, her voice filled with wonder. Every reading indicates the chamber is functioning perfectly, but she's completely fine. The chamber's energy fields began to fluctuate wildly. Sparks flew from control panels as systems started overloading. The quantum harmonics, designed to maintain field stability, spiraled into chaos. Chamber containment at critical levels. An assistant's crystalline form cracked with stress. The fields are becoming unstable. Should we shut it down? Zenekar asked, their bioluminescence nearly blinding in its intensity. The system won't respond. Caxathor's appendages flew over the controls. It's never run this long. We never designed it to. A loud crack interrupted him as fracture lines appeared in the chamber's walls. Victoria's voice came through once more. Folks, I think your quantum harmonics are out of tune. Might want to step back. The gathered scientists scrambled backward as the chamber's energy fields collapsed in on themselves. With a deafening boom, the quantum fields imploded, followed by a shower of sparks and a cloud of vaporized metal. Silence fell over the exhibition hall. Then, through the settling smoke and debris, a figure emerged. Victoria Nash stepped out of the ruined chamber, brushing some quantum residue off her uniform. Her hair had come partially loose from its ties, floating around her head in a static charged halo. She looked like she'd just finished a mildly intensive workout. Well, she said brightly to the stunned crowd, that was interesting. Though I have to say, if you adjust your quantum field resonance by about 0.03%, you might get better molecular penetration. Just a suggestion. Caxathor's crystalline form had gone completely transparent with shock. How? What? You should be. Atomically dispersed? Victoria suggested helpfully. Yeah, about that. Turns out when you evolve on a planet that regularly tries to kill you with everything from radiation to atmospheric pressure changes to massive gravitational forces, you develop some pretty robust molecular bonds. She stretched casually, her joints popping in a way that made several aliens flinch. Not to mention all those cosmic rays we're constantly bathed in really helps toughen up the cellular structure. Professor Chen had recovered enough to approach her with a scanner. Your molecular structure is not only intact, it's strengthened? The quantum fields actually reinforced your cellular bonds. Fascinating. Victoria peered at the scanner readings. Looks like my cells adapted to the quantum dissolution by creating some sort of harmonic resonance. That's new. I should write a paper about this. Security Chief Mixtol's scales had settled into a confused shade of mauve. You mean to tell us that humans just adapt to forces that should destroy organic matter? Pretty much, Victoria shrugged. It's kind of our thing. Though I have to admit, that was a much better workout than my usual morning routine. She walked over to where Dr. Patel still held her lab coat and began putting it back on. Now, about those dinner plans, anyone know a good place to get some food? All this molecular dissolution really works up an appetite. The gathered scientists stared at her, then at the smoking ruins of their supposedly unbeatable chamber, then back at her. Several of them began frantically taking notes. Others started arguing about the implications for their understanding of organic matter. Caxathor just stood there, his crystalline form slowly regaining its color, as he realized that everything they thought they knew about the laws of physics had just been casually disproven by a human who treated molecular dissolution like a spa day. The galaxy would never be the same. The aftermath of Victoria Nash's casual defiance of molecular physics triggered what could only be described as a scientific meltdown. Alien researchers swarmed around her, their various sensory organs and scanning devices, working overtime to understand how she'd survived. The readings make no sense. Professor Rixitol, a quantum physics expert whose gaseous form was practically vibrating with excitement, exclaimed. Her cellular structure shows signs of quantum entanglement with itself. Victoria sat on a floating examination table surrounded by holographic displays showing her biological readings. She sipped a cup of coffee while answering the rapid-fire questions from the gathered scientists. Look, she said, pointing to one of the displays with her free hand. See how the molecular bonds are arranged? That's what happens when you grow up in a gravity well that's constantly trying to crush you. Your body either adapts or, well, you don't pass on your genes. Caxathor, who had finally regained his composure, studied the readings with his crystalline sensors. But the quantum dissolution field should have broken those bonds instantly. Unless... His form flickered with sudden understanding. Unless your molecular structure was already in a state of constant adaptation. Give the crystal man a prize. Victoria grinned. Earth throws so much at us every day. Radiation, atmospheric pressure changes, temperature swings, gravitational stress, that our bodies developed what you might call quantum resilience. Dr. Patel, who had been analyzing the chamber's recorded data, looked up from her tablet. The chamber's fields didn't fail because they were too weak. They failed because Victoria's cellular structure absorbed and redistributed the energy faster than the chamber could produce it. Impossible. Zenkar's bioluminescence pulsed with denial. No organic material can— Watch this, Victoria interrupted. She held up her hand, and to everyone's amazement, it briefly glowed with residual quantum energy from the chamber. We don't just resist environmental forces. We learn from them, adapt to them, sometimes even use them to make ourselves stronger. Security Chief Mixtol's scales had settled into a fascinated shade of blue. Are you saying that humans are quantum adaptive? All life on Earth is, to some degree, Victoria explained. When your planet regularly bathes you in cosmic rays, bombards you with electromagnetic fields, and occasionally tries to rearrange your atomic structure with solar flares, you either develop some serious survival mechanisms or you don't survive at all. The scientists huddled around a new set of scans showing Victoria's cellular structure in real time. Her molecules appeared to be in a constant state of micro-adjustment, ready to respond to any threat to their stability. "But this violates every principle of organic chemistry we know," a silicon-based researcher protested, their crystalline appendages waving in agitation. Victoria laughed. "Welcome to Earth biology, where the rules are made up and the laws of physics are more like guidelines. Why do you think we're so hard to kill?" Professor Chen, who had been quietly analyzing the data, suddenly spoke up. "The implications are staggering. If human cellular structure can adapt to and resist quantum dissolution, then every weapon we've designed, based on molecular disruption—" Caxador's form paled to near transparency. "Is about as effective as a water gun," Victoria finished, "though I wouldn't recommend testing that theory. Not all humans are as curious as I am about their quantum resilience." The revelation sent new waves of chaos through the gathered scientists. Some began frantically revising their research papers. Others started arguing about the need to completely rewrite their understanding of organic matter. A few simply sat down, their various physiologies showing signs of cognitive overload. "One question," Zenkar asked, their bioluminescence dimmed to a thoughtful glow. "If humans are this adaptable, this resilient, what else are you capable of?" Victoria stood up, stretching once more. The quantum energy still crackling around her gave her movement an otherworldly grace. "That's the fun part about being human," she said with a smile that made several aliens take an instinctive step back. "We're still finding out." She walked over to the ruined chamber, running her hand along its fractured surface. "Though I suggest you might want to rebuild this with stronger containment fields. You know, just in case any other Deathworlders get curious about testing it." The gathered scientists looked at each other, then at their ruined masterpiece, then at the human who had casually upended their understanding of the universe. They all reached the same unspoken conclusion. Perhaps they should start paying more attention to that little death world called Earth. After all, any species that could treat molecular dissolution as a mild inconvenience clearly had more surprises in store for the galaxy. 3 weeks after the Nash incident, as it came to be known, the Galactic Scientific Council convened an emergency session. The Grand Chamber of the Centauri Research Institute, hastily repaired after the chamber explosion, now hosted representatives from every major scientific institution in known space. "The data is conclusive," Caxthor announced to the assembled beings, his crystalline form now permanently streaked with bands of wandering blue. "We must acknowledge that our understanding of organic resilience has been fundamentally flawed." Holographic displays showed the recorded footage of Victoria's test, along with the mountains of analysis that followed. The human delegate sat in the front row, munching on what she called popcorn, while various species argued about the implications of her existence. "Our entire classification system for habitable worlds requires immediate revision," Professor Quantum Wave, a being of pure energy, pulsed with excitement. "Earth isn't just a death world, it's an evolutionary crucible." Zenkar, who had spent the past weeks obsessively studying Earth biology, stepped forward. Their bioluminescent patches now displayed a complex pattern of respect and awe. "Consider the implications. A planet with such extreme conditions that its native lifeforms developed quantum adaptive capabilities. We've been categorizing Earth as primitive when it's actually—" "The galaxy's greatest laboratory," Victoria finished, tossing another piece of popcorn into her mouth, "though I wouldn't recommend setting up research stations there unless you enjoy random magnetic field reversals and the occasional supervolcano." The council chamber erupted in overlapping voices, each species using their unique form of communication to express their thoughts. The cacophony only settled when Security Chief Mixtol shot a burst of warning pheromones into the air. "We must address the larger question," they announced, their scales now a philosophical shade of purple. "If humans can adapt to forces that should destroy organic matter, what are the implications for our understanding of life itself?" Professor Chen stepped up to the central platform, bringing up new holographic displays. "Already, our analysis of human cellular structure has led to breakthroughs in quantum biology. The applications for medicine alone are revolutionary. Not to mention the military implications, muttered a silicon-based general from the back, earning sharp looks from several delegates. Victoria stood up, brushing popcorn crumbs from her uniform. Look, I know this is a lot to process. Finding out that a species you dismissed as primitive can casually ignore your laws of physics, that's got to sting. But maybe instead of seeing it as a threat, see it as an opportunity. She walked to the platform, pulling up an image of Earth. Every challenge that made you classify Earth as a death world, those are the same challenges that made us who we are. We didn't just survive our planet's attempts to kill us. We learned from them. Caxathor's form brightened with sudden understanding. That's why you volunteered for the chamber test. You knew your adaptability would force us to reconsider our assumptions. Well, that and it looked fun, Victoria grinned. But yes, sometimes the best way to advance science is to prove ourselves wrong. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Species that had once looked down on humans as primitive Deathworlders now found themselves re-evaluating everything they thought they knew about organic life. The Galactic Scientific Council hereby recognizes Earth as a Class Ultra world, Zenekar announced, their bioluminescence bright with formal ceremony, and proposes a new field of study, terrestrial adaptive physics, with Victoria Nash as its first chair. Victoria raised an eyebrow. I'm honoured, but you should know, I've got about 50 colleagues back home who would love to show you some other fun quirks of human biology. Did you know some of us can digest capsaicin for fun? The gathered scientists didn't know what capsaicin was, but the gleam in Victoria's eye made several of them nervously check their universal translators. As the council session wrapped up, Caxathor approached Victoria. We're rebuilding the chamber with significant modifications. Would you be interested in helping us design the new safety protocols? Better idea, Victoria smiled. Why don't you come visit Earth? Bring your quantum fields, your dissolution rays, whatever you've got. We'll show you what real environmental challenges look like. The gathered aliens watched as she walked out of the chamber, casually defying their understanding of physics with every step. They had started this journey thinking they would prove their superiority over organic matter. Instead, they had learned a valuable lesson. Never underestimate a species that treats their death world like a playground. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was probably for the best.